Good morning, everybody. This is Samantha with Melco. I'm not sure if it's working. There it is. It's working. Excellent. All right. Well, good morning. Let me get this set real quick, maybe. Yeah, there it is. All right. Hi, my name's Samantha. I'm with Melco's application team, and this is our Design Shop talk today, where we try to do these every Friday when we can to answer whatever questions you might have. Let me get this set real quick. You know, just about Design Shop, the machines, whatever really you want to talk about. My name's Samantha. So you're always welcome to send in your comments to applications@melco.com. We try to do these. You can type them in as we talk. Make sure you type them into the comments on this video, and you might have. Hey, good morning. You know, I think I have it where I can see more comments this time. So let's see how that goes. All right, so these are the questions was sent in ahead of time, but like I said, feel free to type in others. I have one line of text in DS, and the customer wants each word to be a different color. How do I do it? Okay, so let's go look at that. So I just have Design Shop here, and let's start with just some basic text. So color, 3 words. Okay. Enter. There we go. So I typed it. I clicked on the lettering tool, clicked on my screen, typed in my text, hit enter, and there are my 3 things. Now, if we want each one different, whenever you want to edit something, you select it. Once it's selected, because this is text, you see those little black X's? Those allow you to change each of those letters individually. What does that mean? You can change anything. You can move them. So just left clicking on the letter and moving it around, I can move it. If I want it, good morning Judy, if I want it to come off of the baseline, I can hold the control key, and once you use the control key, that'll pull it off the baseline. Once you let go of control, that moves it back to where now it's staying along the line right here. Okay, so this isn't quite what was asked yet, I just figured I'd show it. The other thing you can do is when you can also rotate. You can scale, and how I'm doing that, toggling between scaling and rotating, is just by clicking on that letter. So when they're solid, if I click on the letter again, they go hollow, and that allows me to rotate it. All right, now the original question was, how do we change the color? Well, if I select it, I can come down to my color palette and give it another color. All right, so if I want this whole word to be one color, I can go select, holding my control key down. So select the word, select the X, hold my control key, and left click on each of those with control held, and then I can color them another color. Okay, so that's one way. Let's look at a fun, faster way. All right, so fast. All right, I clicked on that, left clicked on the screen. I typed, notice I didn't hit enter yet. Now I'm going to come down here and choose a different color. Now I type something else. I can click another color. Okay, so that allows you to change the colors as you're going without having to select it, go hold all the boxes, so on and so forth. Okay, so that was the first question. So let's close that. No, I don't want to save it. All right, let's see. What other questions did we get? Did anyone type? Good morning, everyone. Or afternoon, depending on where you are. So let's see. What else do we have? Best fonts and settings for small lettering. So before we jump into that, let me point out, if you've not seen some of the videos and whatnot that were done, there's a really good video that was done as a Facebook Live, and that Scott and Nate did. You should look at that. It really goes into a lot of detail on how to do small lettering. But you know, if you're looking for just general help, there's a lot of resources out there. So I have them typed in here so you can see them, but you can always find them by, I'll show you. If I go to melco-service.com, I always like to show you how to find it so it's easier for you. Right here under FAQ, if you click on that, I think small will pull it up. Yeah, small lettering. So all I did was type in small, and there are links, direct links down here to a bunch of different things dealing with small lettering. Like that video right there is excellent. So make sure you look through those. It'll really get into a lot of detail on small lettering for you. Now, DesignShop does have fonts that are specifically designed around tiny fonts. So if you look up here under micro, you'll see there's all these small fonts. Looking at the code sheets over here, you'll see the range that it's recommended you use them for. All right, so between little less than 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch. Some will go down as small as 17 or 13, I think. 17. Okay, so pretty darn small. When you use those, ooh, that's different. You know, make sure you're staying within that time frame. You know, those ranges there. And use a center walk. Make sure you up your density so you don't have so many stitches in a small area. That's what makes it look too bulky. Use smaller needles and things like that. So my best advice on the small lettering is watch those videos. They're great. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have? I digitized a font using the alphabet editor, and when I changed the size of the font in DesignShop, it doesn't scale quite right. Any idea why? Let's see. Some different things to think about. In the alphabet editor, when you're digitizing them, you do it at a 1-inch cap height, right? So it's a pretty tall letter. When you go to change the size of it, if you didn't digitize it exactly right, you know, there's small variations between the letters. When you scale it, those either up or down, the small variations in the font itself are magnified. So you'll see much larger changes as you scale and shrink than it is on the screen at your 1-inch height. So you would want to check the letters that are not scaling quite right. Check them, see if they're set up right in the alphabet editor. You also, in the alphabet editor, if you ever messed with the cap height marker, it will really goof up some of your fonts. So you want to make sure you didn't modify any of that as you were going along and you left them exactly where they're supposed to be. And I'm not sure if you're just talking about the size. You know, if you type it in as a 1-inch font, it doesn't give you exactly 1 inches when you select the element. That's because it doesn't account for descenders, right? So if I type the word toy, this is a 1-inch height, but if I look down here, my height is 1.2. Well, I've got a descender on there. So that's going to make it taller overall. Okay. There's a question. Is there a way to remove jump stitches on a digitized file? Yes, there is. So if you go in DesignShop under Tools, Options, down here, Expanded Open. If that's set to 0, then every time you open an expanded file, it will leave it exactly as the digitizer had it. It won't do anything to it. If this is set to 1, it's anything that was a jump stitch, it will remove. So the file will have no more jump stitches in it. Now, if there are, let's see, if you still have lines that look like jump stitches, it means they weren't actually a jump stitch. It's an actual stitch that was programmed in there. So then the only thing you can really do is trim it out. Okay, so I'm going to leave that at 1. And let me see if I still have it here. Of course not. All right, let's see. Oh, let's see, sign. Nope. There was a design I had earlier that had one of those weird little stitches in it. That one. Yeah. Okay, so like that right there. That's not actually a jump stitch, even though it's still showing up. So if I wanted to get rid of this one, what I would have to do is find it. So it's between those two right there. I would select the element that I'm going to edit. I would come over here to Expanded Stitch Editing Mode. I usually just pick a point that I can easily see and just left click on a line to add a point. And then right here, Insert Trim. Good morning, Edith. Morning, Ja. All right, so now that I insert, oops. Oh, there's more than one, because it goes back and forth over it. So I got to do it again. All right, so if I delete the stitch, hit delete. Okay, So you've got to find them all. This had 2 because it sews over it and then it comes back. So I'd have to do the same thing and find the other one. But basically I got rid of one of them, now it's got the other one going back. So you would select it, add a stitch, insert a trim, and then find that stitch and delete it. Alright, so there's that. No. Okay. I have one, but let's see. 2 of my machines load designs in the correct colors. The third loads the design and whatever the last colors were. I'm not sure, are you using auto coloring when you're loading it to the machine? If you are, you want to make sure that so let me back up. On your machines, you've got since you have 3 machines on the left hand side of your screen in OS, you would have the 3 different machines listed. Check the settings in each of them. So click on the one that's doing what you want, go to Tools, Settings, and the second tab there's Use Colors from Designs. I'm guessing it's not checked. And on the third machine, see if that says Use Colors from Design or something like that. So if you would, for there, check that and uncheck. When you have that button selected, it's not going to read the colors on your thread tree or anything like that. It's just going to show up on the screen however it was digitized. So if it's an expanded file, it's going to come up in those, the green, red, the strange colors. If it was digitized in OFM, it's going to have whatever it was digitized as, is what will show up. So I would check that. So I guess I need a little more info to understand what's not loading. If it's the auto coloring, then just make sure your tree is right and make sure it's set to auto select colors in your settings. Okay. This one's more of a machine specific question. My big red just started stopping and telling me my bobbin is out. Turned off the bobbin sensor doing flats. Activates at 3. Will stitch 30, stop after 10 to 15. So you turned off the bobbin sensor, but it's still stopping. So your thread break sensor still thinks that something's not there. So just because you turned off the bobbin, there's 2 options in your thread break sensor. So you can try disabling the whole thing. So rather than just turning off the bobbin, you can try turning off all thread break detection. Be careful if you do that. It's a bit obnoxious if you forget about it. Because if you do have a thread break or your bobbin runs out or something like that, it sews. That's no fun. So I wouldn't suggest that. What I would start with is take the little tube on the thread break sensor and rotate it. And also try standard versus auto and see if you get a different response. But rotate that tube. Sometimes that is a good place to start. Make sure the foam on the sides is centered. So you can wiggle that tube and rotate it on the machine. Okay. I cannot save the hoop as default. Every time I change it, but it won't save. That's correct. That's a known feature that they have on the list. So right now it won't, there's only one default. You can't set it to be what you want. So yes, that's unfortunately not able to be changed at the moment. My thread tree doesn't show the correct colors when I change the thread color. Are you talking about OS or DS? I have a feeling it's related to what I was talking about up here with the use colors from design, or right click on the actual bubble and whatnot. So I'm not quite sure. I guess I need to know a little bit more info of what's not setting for you to be able to help. But like I said, if it's just the designs, you set it to the right colors and you apply and you look at the machine and it's not showing up right, well, then what you'd want to do is check that use colors from design is not selected. But I don't know if that's actually what you're asking. So type in, let me know, and we'll get that figured out for you. Someone said they've never changed the active feed settings. In what circumstances might I need to? Well, the active feed is what's controlling how much thread is being fed out for your sewing. So let's say you're sewing on something really thick. you're going to need more thread to make the stitch so it's not so tight, you're not at risk of breaking it and things like that. So you'd want to up your active feed to be able to handle that. If you're sewing with really brittle thread, I don't know if you've ever sewn with the glow-in-the-dark stuff or some metallics or a frosted mat, some of those tend to be a little not as strong, you know, when just compared to the polyester thread. If you pull it and break it and do that same thing with one of the other threads, you'll see it's not quite as strong. So to help, I always think in my mind anyway that I'm babying the thread by upping the active feed, make it a little looser so it can't pull as tight. And that way you'll have, you know, it runs a little easier, especially when you're dealing with kind of hard to work with materials and threads. Hats, that's a good reason. If you're doing hats, again, it's thicker. Your hats is off the thread plate more. The hats are thicker. They usually have buckram and other things in there. You've got wider areas to go through. So upping the active feed will help you have better success there. Decreasing it, let's say you're going on really thin things. You're going to sew on a, I don't know, a handkerchief or just on Vilene. You're going to do some freestanding lace. Let's say you're going to do something like that. Well, trying to run that at a 8 active feed might not be so successful because it's too much thread, so you might end up with looping or things like that. So decreasing your active feed makes the thread a little tighter for thinner materials. Okay, which is also one of the reasons, if you've ever noticed it, they often call it material thickness. So that's another thought on that. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, was that really all my questions? Oh, no, I skipped this one. I need a reminder on how to get caps to stitch out middle first and outward. So, oh, and also can you recommend a beginner class to start with? So let's do that first, because hats, part of that's going to be in the digitizing. Well, all of that's going to be in the digitizing. So, beginner classes, where do I go? So, let's start. Ooh, that's not what I want. Come back. All right. So, if I go to melcouniversity.com, this is also on the YouTube channel. I just like it here because it's all in one place. Right there, there's a media tab. If I click on that, right here are all the videos. Okay. Oh, look, they have the links to the lives as well. That's cool. All right, so this actually will get you everywhere, to the live sessions as well as the. That's fun. All right, what I would suggest if you're a beginner is start at the top and work your way down through all these videos. They're really well done. Nate did a fantastic job. They're in little bite-sized chunks, so you don't have to watch 10 hours of video at once to get the hang of stuff. You can kind of take it as you need, or if there's something specific you need help with, you can go find that topic and watch it specifically and get a better idea of it. Okay, but the first kind of 4 sections is where I would start. That's not so much digitizing, that's understanding, you know, how it all works. It's working with other people's files, creating your own lettering, understanding what the properties are, so that you can, you know, as you do sew outs, you can look at it and go, hey, that's too thin. What do I have to change? Oh, well, that I would increase my pull compensation, you know, things like that. Editing, how to work with wireframes and split elements. Some kind of, that's starting to get into, you know, I'd say after you digitize the editing of it. Then, so after you get a handle of that, then go down and look at the digitizing basics. This will start you from the very beginning of things that you want to think about as you're going to digitize, from how to get the artwork in, you know, the pathing, things to optimize your sew outs, how to use the different tools. You know, you've got your walks, your columns, your fills, and it will talk you through all those. And then, you know, then it's down to practice. You know, you got to work your way through different projects, and, you know, each project is going to be a learning experience. You'll sew one, and, you know, as you're doing them, you'll learn from it. You'll go, oh, I like this, I didn't like this. Well, kind of write it down, make a mental note, whatever you need to do, and your next project will be better. Okay. All right, so that's where I'd start there. Now, the original question was, how do I get a hat to stitch middle out? Well, bottom line, it's going to be in the digitizing. If it's text, it's really simple, so I can show you that. So in text, if I want this to sew middle out, I go into the properties, and right here, horizontal stitch order, I say center out, apply. Okay, And now you'll see it says center out, okay, if it were a longer word. And that's literally just under properties, horizontal stitch order. Okay. Now, if you have multiple lines of text, you also want to go bottom to top, and that would be this button. All right. But I think what you're really asking is, I have a design, you know, I don't know, a logo of some sort. How do I make it so center out? Well, you have to digitize it, specifically center out, thinking about where one element starts, where the next goes, how you're going to do the underlay, how you're going to build it so it shows center out. And that's all in the digitizing. So that's where you want to think about that digitizing process, and what do you do? How do you make it go, come alive? Okay, so there's no taking a logo and saying, all right, now instead of starting here, start there. You've got to actually digitize each of the elements one at a time to get it to sew the direction in order you want it to. Okay. Sometimes on lettering, my center walk underlay will randomly have stitches jumping through letters, and if I take the center walk underlay off, it disappears. How do I fix this from happening? Yeah, that was what I was going to say, is try unchecking use continuous. So where that is, if you go under underlay, there we go. Right here, there's use continuous. So try unchecking that. Sometimes that'll create, I've noticed it myself on O's every now and then, it'll put a line right there. So unchecking that, it'll often go away. I mean, you can other times, if you select the letter, this is just something I've noticed. If you play with your starts and stops, sometimes you can make it go away as well. All right. What other questions? I don't see any others typed in. Okay. Let me go back to my list and make sure I didn't skip any others, since I skipped one. Let's see, we talked about that. We talked about the small lettering, alphabet editor, caps, jumps. Did that. Yeah. All right. So I got all the questions that were sent in. So again, remember, sending your questions, applications@melco.com. Type them into here. I'll check later on today, see if there's any other questions on them that came in after the fact. But hopefully it's helpful for you. We'll do these on a weekly basis. Again, my name's Samantha. So any other questions? I'll hold on for just a sec. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a day. Nope. All right. Well, everyone have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.